A world of endless choices, but a generation stuck in decision paralysis.
They are three things that I can invest and get a return on. That is my time, my energy, and my money. Well, how can you spend your time, money, and energy to achieve that? They all leave at 6 or 7 p.m. and we're here till midnight. So the problem in that statement for you is that the Gen Z left at 6 or 7 p.m., not the fact that your workplace expects you to stay until midnight to get the job done with no overtime. There will always be friction with systemic change like that. I think it's about conscious consumption and knowing yourself and how you interact with these platforms. You have to put effort in. It's not just follow and unfollow. It's how to boost the right things.
Welcome to Decisions That Count. I'm neuroscientist Dr. Shawn Watson. Today, we're going to explore the Gen Z compass, how to turn overwhelming number of options into a clear path for impactful decisions.
And I'm Michelle O'Brien, and our guest, Holly Smith, is a brilliant young leader who has a unique perspective, a financial activist who made the courageous decision to leave a secure path and forge her own purpose-driven career.
Today, we're going to talk to Holly about how her generation combats the immense cognitive overload of endless options and managing decision fatigue to create a fresh framework for intentional decision-making that aligns with their values.
Holly, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
I am so excited to talk to you again. This is not the first time that we've spoken. And I said to Shawn before we started, you are probably one of my most quoted episodes from the Upward Spiral, because honestly, you just gave me such a fresh perspective. And just really excited to have you here today.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Give us a quote.
Yeah, I know. And Holly is the youngest person that we have interviewed on the podcast, which I think's, that feels good to me as well. Hopefully you're going to drop some truth bombs for us today.
Yes, absolutely.
How old are you, Holly? Just
I am the ripe old age of 25.
25.
I am on the cusp of aging out of the UN's definition of youth. So that's what I was told when I turned 25. But yeah, next chapter.
And is that what, 26? The UN's definition
I think
of
25 is it. So yeah,
okay.
This is the last year of youth.
Oh boy.
Okay, that's depressing. I literally still feel 25.
Yeah, I don't. My body says no.
The old man thing here. We'll ignore him, Holly, for now. I'm going to put you on the spot here and speak for Gen Z. But what is the biggest decision-making struggle you think maybe your generation is facing?
I think it's great to caveat that I'll do my best to be a spokesperson, but also that my perspective is built in cultural identity, racial identity, all of these things as well. I think there are two main things. One is being told that the world is our oyster and everything is available to us. And so what to do, where to go, what to experience, who to talk to, everything. It's like we're told on the activism side that, oh, your generation's going to save us. On the opportunity side, it's, oh, you've got everything we never had. And there's not really a guidance on how to deal with all of that opportunity or all of those chances, and to always feel grateful that we have it too. So can't have any problems with this decision paralysis or overwhelm because got to be grateful. And I think the other thing is part of the age of the internet and media and education and awareness and critical conversation is now you can learn about every issue there is in the world. And also now you can do something about it too. And so which one do I make a difference in? Which cause do I contribute to? Which area do I not know enough about yet? And I think the two of those, I think, are just both very, very overwhelming, especially for a generation that is so values-led, that's why it's overwhelming. Otherwise, if we didn't care about what to do with our lives or what to do for the world, then we wouldn't be upset about not knowing how to choose what to do, right? I think those are the two most critical things, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is like it's a decision paralysis in what to do with your life because you know, you've always been told that everything is possible and accessible, given the way we live now. But then also, you know, being so values driven, knowing, you know, you've got access to all of the things that are maybe wrong with the world. And there are ways to be able to help. But the sheer volume of that, again, is another decision paralysis.
Yeah. And understanding your place in it as well. You know, we have a lot of dialogue about privilege and class and race and all of these things, and trying to be humble in that too, and be aware and not ignorant, and contribute but not overstep or replace. And I think it's amazing that we can learn so much about what we can do in the world, but that there's also a lot of guilt and anxiety that comes with the responsibility too, especially in the earnestness of wanting to make a difference. Yeah, just a lot of feelings.
I was just about to say, like, it feels like, just hearing you talk about it, I was like, oh, that actually feels a bit anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm starting to understand why there is kind of this anxiety epidemic within Gen Z.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, and you know, maybe we'll talk about it later with social media. I've mentioned before that I am not on social media. LinkedIn is probably the closest that I have, but needing to be seen to be doing as well. So be taking all those opportunities and presenting them, and to be doing your part in the most topical social justice issue. And if you're not doing it publicly, then I bet you're not doing it. And why are you not doing it? And for me, it's amazing not to be on social media, to even have to deal with choosing whether to be vocal in that way about the things that I'm involved in, rather than I just do human to human talking, like, oh, I do this thing. Maybe it'd be interesting to you too, because I know you care about blah, blah. That side of things, I think we can be very critical of each other, because we're so desperate for everyone to get on board, and, you know, all together we can stick it to the man and rise up, and, you know, all this kind of language. But sometimes we can do it quietly too. So I think we're also our own worst enemy in that respect as well.
Are you unique in that?
No, I think actually unique in which part?
I just mean like the not being on social media and trying to have an impact quietly.
Definitely not. And I think some people can't be loud with their impact, and there are more social consequences for them to be loud. For others, maybe it is just a personality type. I'm very talkative, and I have never been someone to do things quietly, despite the social media thing. So it's just not really my flavour. But lots of people are introverted, and lots of people are good at quietly mobilising a lot of people to one cause. I see imagery of protesters with the megaphone, and I can be like that. But I know some people that are more just in the crowd, and you need a lot of people in the crowd to make a difference too. So yeah, I would say I'm not unique in wanting to be quiet, not unique in wanting to not be on social media, but there's quite a lot of nuance in how we engage with the things that we care about and what's in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing more and more of your peers coming off social media, spending more time in the real world?
Yeah, definitely. But I think even those, so we come off social media, but not all of it necessarily. It's the channels or the bits that are not good for our well-being, and we each have different vulnerabilities. And so for me, Instagram was just a terrible, terrible place. I wish I had never been on it, but I was a teenager and everyone was on it. And I left Instagram in 2018, just as I went to university within the first semester. Amazing. My life was so much better. I did forget to take photographs for a while, which really made me think about my relationship with how I capture memories. But I've got other friends who stay on Instagram but quit Facebook, and then some friends that are on TikTok but none of all the others. And maybe they're avid cookers at home. They love to cook, and TikTok is great for new recipes and things. So I think it's about conscious consumption and knowing yourself and how you interact with these platforms. But also I think I read that the Gen Z trend with social media is that it's all about communication still. and lesser about consumption, which is more the Gen Alpha space, or maybe my sister's section of Gen Z, where it's a lot about consuming the short form content and learning about the world, whereas me and my friends, we use social media to talk to each other, especially because we're foraying around everywhere, taking up all these opportunities that are supposedly available to us that we should take. So social media is pretty critical in staying in touch.
Conscious consumption. I just want to touch on that because that's a really nice thought in theory, you know, just going on there for a specific purpose, whether that's to catch up with friends, whether that's to follow cooking, you know, find new recipes or whatever. I wonder, just given how addictive these platforms are, if, you know, conscious consumption, if that's easy or has to be really intentional.
It definitely takes effort, and I think the way that social media platforms and data algorithms have changed over time, and the presence of adverts, and the idea that you might have to pay to remove adverts now on some platforms, that makes it harder. And I would encourage my friends that if they are a scroller, to sit longer in content that they do enjoy, even if they're not thinking of watching it at that moment, to indicate to the algorithm that that's what they want. And if it's something that they're not really interested, swipe as quickly as possible. Or on LinkedIn, for example, because it is also a social media platform, to try and like and engage in the things that you do like, because those people will come back. And you won't keep seeing nonsense that you don't care about from people you connected with ages ago in a different industry, you know, these kind of things. You have to put effort in. It's not just follow and unfollow. It's how to boost the right things. But I think conscious consumption is not just about social media. I think I used to talk about conscious consumption of meat products and dairy products when I was thinking about the environmental impact of my diet. I wasn't advocating veganism for everyone. I just said, just have a think. Do you need to definitely have steak tonight? or maybe could we experiment with a different dish, or, you know, these kinds of things. And same with conversations I had around alcohol, encouraging people, do you habitually buy a beer, especially in British culture? It is pretty much a habit to order beer. Or do you actually really want that beer tonight? And are you going to go for a craft or just straight out the can, cheapest as possible? So I think whatever it is that you're consuming, other people's ideas, who do you surround yourself by, the podcasts that I choose to listen to. There's enough to consume in the world, but let's think about it for us and for the planet and people. That's I think conscious consumption is useful everywhere as a phrase.
There's a lot to unpack, and it's fascinating for me to hear you talk about it, because I think there is a major gap in generations, which is not unexpected, I suppose, given how fast the world is going. But maybe before I ask those questions, so in this world of all these decisions, and you just mentioned a bunch of them, you talk about your currencies. So how do you use these three currencies to help you make some of these decisions?
For me, I call them my currencies, and that is my time, my energy, and my money. And they are three things that I can invest and get a return on, right? If we want to use like financial lingo, I can use them to get something back. And you have limited of them, right? You have finite resources of these currencies, but you can also grow them too. You can use your time to batch cook on the weekend, to free up your time later in the week when you have pre-prepared meals. So it's not always for like a selfish gain or these kind of things, but you can also spend them to benefit other people. So if you have a value that you want to learn a language, because you want to be able to speak with locals when you go on holiday, or maybe you've moved country and you want to integrate a little bit more, well, how can you spend your time, money, and energy to achieve that? I use it all the time, especially when things are a big fat mess and my life has gone a bit lulu. What's wrong? What's happening? What choices am I making? What are my values? And are my budget and spending of my 3 currencies actually aligning with my values and what I want to achieve in the world. And even if you don't care about anyone else except yourself, that is still useful to think about it. It's not just for like do-gooders that are trying to do something with the world and just want to give. The point is that you only have those 3 things in finite. So how are you spending them?
I've quoted this so much from when we did the podcast about, kind of living alcohol free. And as soon as kind of she explained it to me like that, I was like, God, I've been wasting my 3 currencies. I thought it was just so fascinating of a way of helping you make a decision, even a small decision.
And to put something that isn't just money too. And especially coming from a more activist, trying to make the world a better place background before I got into impact investing, I really didn't know anything about money, to be honest, let alone the big words like finance and economy. That really wasn't interesting to me. And so I was making all my decisions based on, do I have the time and the energy? And my mum always says to me, how are you? And I say, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so busy. She said, oh, never enough hours in the day for you. Oh, you're always tired. And she said, that's going to be your epitaph. That's what people will say when you die. And that's because those were the 2 currencies that I held most dear. And now I discovered this 3rd currency, which is actually my cash value and what I can do with my money as well. But maybe if you're a mum, you're thinking more about time and energy too, because it's not yours anymore. And you always feel like there's not enough time and that you're working with 0% energy and, these kind of things. So at different stages in our life, we might notice one currency taking priority over the other, maybe being more available or maybe just really being on the strictest budget possible. Say if you have a really intense job, your energy budget for other things is going to be very, very low. So you have to think very intentionally about how you consciously consume that currency for you. Yeah.
I think it's also looking at how the other currencies can support the others. So, if you're in kind of a decision-making process as a mum and working for a startup and podcast and kids and marathon training, it's like, I know that kind of my energy is like pretty low, but maybe I can use some of my money to buy some resource that can help clean the house, that could help. There's something that maybe could help with some childcare or, and therefore I'm kind of making decisions based on those currencies and thinking, oh, actually, okay, some money is going to buy me some more energy, maybe in some cases, some energy is going to buy me more time to do something else that you need to. So I think almost having kind of that like check in with yourself as to go, where are my currencies at? And actually can some of those currencies be used to spend to help with others?
One that most people can relate to of hearing is the idea of like upskill to get a pay rise, where you put your time and your energy into learning something new so that you can get that different job to get more money, or so you can get your pay rise in your company because you've proved competency in something else. That's using your 3 currencies in a way to enhance the next one. And now you've got more power with your money because you have more money. And yeah, people just might not have thought about it in the 3 currencies framework, but we've all made decisions with those 3 things in mind.
Yeah. No, and I like it too because it lets you match a currency with I guess your values. So like your children, you may be like, well, I can buy them a toy, but actually, no, I want time with them, right? And so then you can change your currency such that you can free up time for your kids. So yeah, it's really interesting to me because it's to your point, it's interchangeable and each comes with a cost, but then you can match it to what you want, right?
I think it's just such an interesting decision-making framework. And like you said, linking it back to your knowing your values at the beginning, that informs as well.
And you have to know your values. So when you said that earlier, I thought, oh, we've missed a step. First step is to even know, what do you care about, and not care about in the world, but what do you value? And like you could value in-person connection. You could value feeling understood. You could value financial security. You could value gender equality. social justice, world peace, the really big things, or just I value eating my breakfast out of the same bowl every morning because I like stability and comfort first thing, example. It could be very specific emotion, a tangible thing in your life, all those big, crazy, scary concepts for the world. But if you're not sure about those, then what are you even doing with your 3 currencies in the first place? So that is the one step before. What do you even care about?
And that's what frightened me about the first conversation that I had with Holly, because I was like, this currency thing sounds great. Shit, I've never done any work on my values. And I was like, when we first spoke, I was like 37. And I was like, oh my God, like I literally I don't know what my values are.
Yeah.
And like I had to kind of go away and do some work and actually kind of write them down and be like, okay, I'm really clear on my values now. So now I can be clearer on my currencies.
Yeah. And clarity, I think, is the point there, because we're always acting and behaving. And it is being guided by something, but it's how intentional are you?
I think it goes back to like what you originally said there. It was fascinating insights for me on the generation. Because like I said, there's a big gap in values and how you live your life between me and certainly between like say my parents. And it was really interesting what you said is so your generation's value driven, which I don't think we had that, to be honest. Like it was more you just made decisions because you had to get a job, it was just driven in us because you just needed to do all of those things. We never actually had intentional decision making. But it's interesting your comment that the guilt that kind of comes with it as well, because all these things are being put on you, right? And so someone says to you, you have all these opportunities, right? Decide, make a decision, like just make it happen. And then you're trying to align it with your values as well. And then the guilt that comes in to it also. I think that making a decision based on your values is a lot harder to do than it is just to say, if that makes sense. I think that's what I'm getting to. It's kind of easier for us just to follow a path rather than intentional decision making based on our values, because those are tough decisions to make.
Yeah.
If you're choosing, to make gender equality your issue over financial stability, that's a difficult decision to make. So anyways, I thought it was really interesting your commentary about how that guilt and everything that comes with those decisions that you have to make.
Yeah, and there is a lot of nuance, right? Like not all Gen Z are making this huge empowered, do whatever you want, don't care what anyone thinks kind of life. And it's not also just don't care what anyone thinks. They clearly would care a lot about what everyone thinks. But, I do have some peers that take safe options, and the safe option is the prescripted path. There is a lot of nuance, and I think how you describe the complexity of emotions that comes with it is, I think, the same with your generation will save us kind of rhetoric. It's like, what? Maybe like, what if I don't want to? I'm just, maybe today I just want to play. Whether, play as an adult, play as a child, I don't want to be a savior. I could just go and have coffee and do the normal things people my age do. Which is connect, have identity crises, quarter-life crises, these things. I don't want to also save the world at the same time. And then other days you think, yeah, that's my mission. That's what my generation is supposed to do, what I was born to do. So, like this.
I think I have 2 thoughts to that. First, when people, it's like you should save the world. Honestly, the pressure for you guys is like you have to.
Yeah.
It's so screwed up from so many different perspectives. And I think and I get that pressure. And for me, it's not that you should. It's that like you have to. We're all betting on your innovation, productivity, and values to make the world a better place. So no pressure on that one.
As parents as well, we're like, I think that's something that hit me is like you always, until you become a parent, I don't think you really understand when someone says, I want to leave the world better than we found it, better than when we arrived in it.
And it's all based on decisions. And the world is making some shit decisions right now.
Yeah. And my generation are making the decision of not having children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More people are saying it's not given. And millennials too, saying that actually that it has to be a really, really intentional decision. Countries that we've relied on for being stable for a long time are unstable. And thinking about, where will I bring up a child and what will the state of the world be? And what about what I can do and what I can provide, and all of these kind of things. So that's something a lot of my friends we talk about, especially as women, and our hormones start changing in our late 20s and 30s and start telling us to have babies. And we think, God, no.
Me and my husband talked a lot about, like, do we want to bring more people into the world? Like, not knowing what's going to happen, but we're not helping with a problem. We're just adding to it. And, we did talk at length about adopting over when we decided we wanted to have children. Like, we talked at length about adopting instead of actually having more. Adoption as a foreigner in Singapore was impossible. You can't do it. So there was that. And then it was the biological something clicked in me. And I was like, I want your babies. Let's do it. But I
literally,
let's do it, literally. But then I was also like, we draw the line at 2. We replace ourselves, but no more.
And there's no righteous choice here over one or the other. And it's just interesting how the factors that play into whether to have a child or not, or whether to take this job or not, move to this country. I think the information that's available to even be aware about the footprint, the carbon footprint of having a child. You're like, oh, that's information I didn't have before. And should I be regarding that information or not? And this kind of thing.
In, say, like my parents' generation, a career was their identity. So they made a decision about a job, and then, like, my father was an air traffic controller. That's what he was. That was his identity. For you guys, career is changing all the time. Even our generation will have multiple careers, right? And so we tend not to define ourselves by one job or one thing. There's exceptions, of course. How is your identity defined, or like how, in all this decision landscape, knowing you're going to have different careers, live in different places, have different friends, like where do you get your identity from it?
I think, firstly, how I view career is that is the part of my life that I am working. So for however long in my life, career just means that, my working life, my paid working life. Because I have my life's work, which is the effort that I put into the world during my life. And then I have my work, which is career, if that makes sense. Like my work life, which is my career.
You're so much more wise than we were.
I know.
Honestly, I'm just like, you should have been my life coach 20 years ago. Or now. Yeah.
So when you say multiple careers, I think, I hope not, because that means multiple lifetimes. The way I'm hearing what you're saying, I know what you're describing is different, but the semantics, I just relate to that word differently. And I think a lot of my friends do too, because when they say, I'm building my career, they've done 3 different things in 3 years. So in your definition, that's 3 careers.
Right.
But for us, that's just our working life. We're just building something of meaning and over time. And I think it's interesting, the generational difference there, especially with the quiet quitting trend. And I refresh my mind of the definition of quiet quitting, because when my peers talk about that, we talk about not having to justify not doing unreasonable things. But then when I looked at the definition, it was talking about doing the bare minimum, and that's not the same. When you are in a workforce that unofficially expects you all to do overtime unpaid, to stay as if you don't have a home life or care responsibilities or just health, and then you say, no, I'm leaving at the time that my contract says I can leave because I'm only paid until 6 p.m. That's not doing the bare minimum. That's doing what you've been hired to do. And I think that's different to that definition of quiet quitting, where you do the bare minimum, which is often found in burnout, where you really do the bare minimum to just keep bobbing by, try not to address that you are burnt out and you can't function anymore. And both of those things are experienced in Gen Z often, especially with the values thing. Like, I get burnt out by watching the news. the activist burnout is too much. Earlier this year, I had to stop engaging with the daily nonsense that was coming through on the news and the LinkedIn around the world, because I just couldn't function even at work anymore. It was too overwhelming. And so, yeah, for a week, I was doing the bare minimum to get myself back on top of things. But for me, that's not quiet quitting. Quiet quitting really is just saying, okay, I have boundaries for workplace nonsense. I understand why the two different behaviors kind of get tarnished with the same brush, because there are consequences when people try to enforce systemic change. So when a generation of the workforce starts saying, oh, we have boundaries, and not snowflake boundaries, I get quite frustrated about that, just actual health boundaries. The rest of the workforce has to take on that load. And I have millennial friends that work at a pretty large financial firm, and they have complained to me. I say, I know it's not like you, but our Gen Z colleagues, they all leave at 6 or 7 p.m. and we're here till midnight, and now we have to stay till 1 a.m. because they left and we're a man down. And I think, so the problem in that statement for you is that the Gen Z left at 6 or 7 p.m., not the fact that your workplace expects you to stay until midnight to get the job done with no overtime. There will always be friction with systemic change like that. And thinking about career as one part of your life, one way that you can contribute to the world, and to yourself in terms of earning money, self-development, feeling good. But it really is, it's one part of our lives. And that can be hard when you have intergenerational teams, even just one generation up.
Generations are so different. Just because everything, like you guys have been forced, I think, to your credit, I think it's been an advantage because you're way more intentional and thoughtful in your decision making. But it's because the previous generation threw so much stuff at you that you needed to have these considerations, right? Like we didn't grow up in a world where we had all of these decisions, and social media, it was a pretty set path for us. But hearing you talk, I think there is some positive outlook, is if you can manage all of that and be conscious of your decisions, then no, it's exciting to hear you talk about it, just because you hear so many terrible things about social media and the generation and whatnot. But I get that generational stress, and those people who are even 8 years older than you, but they got it from the people 8 years older than them, right?
And my sister's 8 years younger than me. And we're technically both Gen Z, but in terms of technology, we've grown up in a different generation. And so... That's crazy. Yeah. I remember Love Film, where pre-Netflix.
He won't know Love Film. Before this is we've had a real kind of educate Shawn recently.
I learned about wellies were
on our London series. So before we had Netflix, we had Love Film, and it was where your DVDs would come in the post.
Well, that's what Netflix was in North America. Yeah.
But in England, it was called Love Film.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So
at least you know what DVDs are.
Well, yeah. Every weekend, we, as a family, we will have cinema night where we put the sofas one behind each other. We have popcorn and sweets, and we watch a film. And we don't make a choice about which film that is because it gets sent in the post. And the same things with like summer library schemes and things like that, about what books to read, recommendations and things like that, with your librarian telling you, hey, I think you'll really like this one. Whereas now I've got to choose. I've got to choose which one I'm going to read or buy or borrow, or saying which film, these kind of things. And I grew up with a childhood that feels more similar to my peers who are 8 years older than actually I think the one I share with my sister. Love Film kind of ended when she was about 8, I think. I remember our cinema nights kind of stopped when I was a teenager, because everything you could just boop, boop, and choose. No need for the post anymore. And so I think same with nature and outdoors and other values of connectivity. I did have my childhood there, and all of these technology innovations were when I was a teenager. And I think that makes the upper section of Gen Z a little bit different in that way compared to maybe a conversation in a few years' time you might have with my sister about her views.
So even within a generation, there's that much difference.
Because of how quickly the world changes.
Yeah.
Your inner world, your nearby world, but also the big wide world. So I think we're making very, very different decisions. But I remember not having to make that many.
Yeah.
Whereas I think my sister has always made many every day. Yeah.
God, and then I think
Think our kids.
well, I think we just had action. We didn't really have decisions. I never thought to go on Facebook or not. I just went on Facebook when it first came out because it was so cool and new.
Yeah. But it was like it was a social thing, right? I think it wasn't the media platform that it is today.
Fair.
It was like you would go on and it, MySpace and MSN before that, but it was like we'd have to like get the dad off the phone, get on the dial up. Remember the dial-up internet, and then after like half an hour, they'd be like,
"You're aging yourself,
Michelle. Get off the phone. We need to use get off the internet. We need to use the phone."
Oh my God, we're talking like
we only ever had like one phone line, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at even kind of MSN, it was like the place where you would go after school in the evening to talk to your friends. It was just another way to talk, and it was MySpace. MySpace had that creative element because you could kind of design your page and everything else. But and Facebook, it was just all about social. It was about your friends. You didn't have an algorithm. It wasn't a media company. It wasn't the beast it is now. Yeah. It was another way to share photos and communicate, and it was exciting, but you couldn't spend hours on it. You'd spend like 20 minutes on it and then you'd be like, okay, right, cool, we'll go do something else now.
Now we've got all the wires under the ground and we can all do whatever we want at the same time whenever. And
not in England, the internet is shocking. Like I could not believe how bad it was last week.
In comparison, right? It's the equivalent of the cereal aisle. Having every possible cereal, all the ingredients from around the world. It's amazing. I can cook recipes that I discover from traveling at home, and basically in any major city there will always be an international supermarket or international aisle, even though the Western aisle in the supermarkets here does make me chuckle a lot. And I'm sure when Singaporeans see the Asian aisle in UK supermarkets, it makes them giggle. But now what to do? Now which country to relive or which country to connect with through cuisine? Because I can really find all of them.
It's all like decision fatigue inducing. Like this whole
it's the cereal aisle. Seriously, like used to be like 4 cereals when I grew up, right? And now you go there, and it's just a wall of cereal.
We were speaking to Dr. Darian Bain a few weeks ago, and she just hit home to me like, you're not just looking at a wall of 100 cereals. You've got other layers of decisions, right? Like how much sugar content is in them,
fiber,
how much fiber, where were they sourced? Is it sustainable? Like, so you're not just making a decision of 100 cereals based on taste or preference. You're then looking at like health, sustainability, or your other values. And all of a sudden what could be like, if you look quickly at 100 boxes, that's 100 micro decisions, actually turns into 1,000 very, very, very easily.
That are emotionally connected. If you're like, oh, cereal for my kids. Is this one good? Like,
There was a moment I realized I was at peak burnout. This year was when I was deciding between a tea, a coffee, and a hot chocolate, because I knew I was having a big wobbly and I needed a hot drink.
What's a big wobble?
Yes. A wobbly, a moment.
Okay.
It's all falling apart.
You're feeling unstable.
Your emotions.
Wobbly.
All wobbly. Okay. And yes. And you don't know if you're going to cry, laugh, fall on the floor, go for a 5K run. You don't know what's going to happen to your body. You're having a wobbly.
A wobbly.
It's
I can use
emotional
it with my wife.
Instability.
Having a wobbly.
Yeah,
okay.
Feeling unstable.
Sorry, anyways, tea, hot chocolate.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to reset. We're going to have a hot drink. But it was decision paralysis. I had nothing left to decide because it wasn't just tea, coffee, hot chocolate. It was tea, a herbal tea. Great, I'm feeling really sick because I'm really burnt out. That's a good idea. But it's really hot because it's just hot water and no milk. So, and this is Singapore. So, oh, that's not a good idea because I'm going to feel even worse. And I'm already feeling a bit sensitive about the sweat on my neck and the way my hair feels because it's greasy right now. And, I'm sensitive to that kind of thing. Okay, so maybe not tea. Right. What about coffee? Well, it's 4 or 5 p.m. already and I've run out of energy to make a decision, but maybe the coffee will help. But then it's 4 or 5 p.m. and now I won't sleep properly and then I'll be worse tomorrow and, it's not good, it'll stain my teeth. So, okay, hot chocolate. Well, the hot chocolate, yeah, that's really comforting. I used to have hot chocolate after I had to cry. Okay, great, that's a good idea. No, but the sugar content, okay, and where did the cocoa come from? And do I even have any here? Oh, it's in a single packet and not in a tub. Oh, okay, that's not really going to have an impact on the world that I like, but it's good for me. And I just don't.
Yeah.
I just don't do the thing. And I don't feel better. I didn't have the hot drink. And it was just, and silence. None of this is verbal, right?
Yeah.
I'm alone in my room, in the kitchen, making this tea. And I just went to bed.
Yeah.
I just lied down in a state like that. And that's burnout, but it was decision paralysis. I couldn't make a choice because I was so worried about making the right one that's good for me, that I just didn't make a choice at all. And that's just a drink. But in life, there are bigger decisions like taking a job, walking down which street. Well, you've got to walk down one of them because you still have to go to that place you were trying to go. The way you were describing the cereal, I was having a flashback of my tea, coffee, hot chocolate moment earlier this year. Yeah.
Well, it's a great story because, I mean, the reason for this podcast, one of them is to talk about decision fatigue, right? And it is it's like a modern epidemic of our society. It's we're making too many decisions, right? And what fascinates me, and we've said a lot in this podcast, is it's a physiological condition. So your brain is literally hitting its limit. We've never had someone from your generation talk about decision fatigue, but the consequences of decision fatigue, the first one is obvious, and it's when you avoid decisions.
Yeah.
So you just stop making them, which is what you just described.
Yeah.
The other one's more sinister. It's called default decision making, when we start to just unconsciously make a decision that we think is safe or comfortable, or the decision maybe we've made in the past. So, my question to you just described that one story, but knowing that about decision fatigue, just my brief explanation, do you feel it in your life? Do you feel like you're just making too many decisions and your brain just shuts down?
Yeah, definitely. And it takes constant work to not fall into it. You're trying to get as much as you can out of your day, out of yourself, out of your company, out of your team. If you're on a visa that's got a time limit, get the most out of the time that you have in the country with that visa. Get the most out of your holiday. Get the most. And I think it packs in a lot more decisions in one go than we're really meant to be doing. It just feels gross here in your head, and I think it's just sped along in that sense. And when you can feel it happening in your work life, and as our generation, we've already decided that work is just one thing. But if we'd made it our everything, maybe we wouldn't feel the decision fatigue so much, because it would only be work where we're experiencing it, and then home would just be plain and simple. But because we're active citizens, we get involved with different topics. We're trying to educate ourselves, better ourselves, go to therapy. Even therapy requires making decisions. What am I going to disclose today? What do I feel ready to tackle? I think, yes is my answer. I feel it a lot.
I like your term. It feels gross in here.
Yeah.
We're going to use that in ads. So I think there's just a bit of an observation, though. What I'm hearing from Holly, that maybe with Gen Z, actually do think about their decisions a lot more. I think you are aware of the impact of your decisions. But because of that, every decision is so much more taxing in the brain, that when you are hitting decision fatigue, you're less likely to default and more likely to just avoid making a decision altogether, shut down, or start suffering from quite bad anxiety about the decisions that you do have to make.
Yeah, I think shutdown is the right word. And you can talk about burnout from being an entrepreneur, which is excessive decision making in high stress. There's activism burnout, when you're desperately trying to make a change in a big way against a system, you will get burnout. There's lots of little decisions, and especially ones with minimal success, right? Because it's the long game for systemic change. And if you have any value and you're trying to make decisions in line with the value, it can be hard if you don't have frameworks, resources, support. And then if you combine all three, which a lot of young people are very entrepreneurial, not necessarily an entrepreneur, but thinking about how to create opportunities, and are active, even if you don't like the word activism, do act to make a change, and are values driven. Well, you're just 3 times the opportunity to be burnt out, which I think really does come a lot from decision fatigue. And shutdown, I think, is the right word for that.
Yeah, a glimmer of hope in it, though, or what I'd like to hear is, and again, one of the reasons for the podcast is to make people aware of decision fatigue, because I think in our generation, we take it more as a personal failing. So when you hit that wall, when you hit that shutdown, you're like, this is me. I'm not performing as well as my peers, as well as I could be. It's like a psychological failing. Not to say your generation doesn't feel that. I think they do, but at least it's nice to hear that you recognize it as kind of burnout, something that's out external to yourself. I think that's a very positive sign, just because decision fatigue we're going to hear a lot more about, and it's really important that people understand that it's just a physical limitation. It's not a personal failing, which I think is very different from, and we've talked about this before. I think it's different from us, where we view it far more personally.
If you had to, like, using my psychology brain, it sounds like I just can't do this anymore. Not I am not enough. And we do feel the I'm not enough thing a lot, but I think in this conversation it's I just can't do this anymore. And this is not me. This is all out there. And that's why I think maybe the response is a little different in terms of shutdown, and your body is trying to save yourself.
But that's it. Like, decision fatigue is caused by modern society, the way we're living. You know, we are it's a technology, but we're also being bombarded with messaging, problems, content. You know, it's not just social media. It's the whole kind of all of these external factors. And so I'm not surprised there's that, okay, I shut down. You know, I cannot consume all of this on. I can't take it all on. I can't solve all of these problems.
And you have to adjust and listen, and it changes over time. Your capacity obviously goes up and down too. So when I was burnt out, I was feeling the I can't do this anymore thing. So how do I reduce the amount that's going in? Well, I changed the notification settings on my phone, which I do regularly, and yet somehow more creep in.
The tyranny of the ding.
Yeah. I removed things from my home screen. You can have apps on your phone that you can't see. So that's great. Thinking about clothes to wear. There was a period of my life where I was living out of a 7 kg backpack and I had 2 outfits. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Just washed one each day, wore it the next one the next day, and I just cycled between the two, because that period of my life was extreme for decision making at work. When I'm the most overwhelmed, and it's not just burnout, just when things feel a little bit busy or it's on its way to a wobbly, is doing like a mental barn and checking what's all in here at the front and at the back, what's swimming around. And it can be really small things like my hair is feeling greasy. Oh, I've got one fingernail that's kind of like hanging off a little bit and it's irritating me. Or my shoes are dirty. I haven't called my mom. Or it could be big things like, who am I going to vote for this year? Or I haven't done my taxes yet and the deadline's coming up, or, you know, things like that, or career choices. It's not just decisions, but it's things that are hanging around that you need to decide about. How you feel, maybe. How do I feel about this friend that cancelled on me? I just went straight into the next part of my day and just writing it all down. I'm a very tactile person. I like to write things down and just write it all everywhere. And then I look at my currencies and I do a little Venn diagram and put them in and say, oh, which ones do I just not need to be spending on anymore? Just cross them out. Or if it's greasy hair. Okay, well, next up, just wash your hair. And then now, actually, I'll feel much better about all the rest of the decisions. So sometimes there are small wins. Other times it's you pause and acknowledge. I acknowledge that I am overwhelmed, that my friends live in a country that is now not so friendly to those friends. And that's hurting my heart, and I worry for them. But what can I do? Well, to be honest, for that situation, there's really not anything I can do. I can reach out to that friend, send my love. If you're a religious person, maybe you might pray. But acknowledging, saying, this is causing me distress, and that's okay because it's distressing. And there's nothing to do about that one. You can just move it. So sometimes there are things you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other things where they're just decisions waiting for you.
Yeah.
You just got to make them.
It is one thing, like a currency, if we use that word, which I really like, that I've definitely used now, is actually decisions. Decision fatigue is what we think it is. And there's a limited number of quality decisions that you can make every day.
Yeah.
Just physiologically, your biology, just there's only a certain number. Where are you spending them? And that's a question that I actually start to ask myself a lot now, because even if I try to set aside time, I'm not setting aside decisions. So and I'm giving, my best decisions to something that maybe I don't value. So just another I like the word currency, like I said, but is where I'm spending my decisions.
Yeah.
Because I think it's something we don't normally think about, because we think that the decisions we make in the morning are the same at the evening. But actually, the quality of those decisions are very different. So if you value friends, but you're not spending your best decisions on them, then you're misplacing where you're spending the currency.
Yeah, even just choosing a cafe. I think to meet up with a friend, it's so laborious to do that in the last half an hour of your day. It shouldn't take half an hour to choose a cafe. But, I'm thinking about where are we both coming from and where are we going to next and where will be convenient, not too much time outside in this humidity and this kind of thing. But in the morning, those things just happen so much faster. Even if you're not a morning person, the first section of your day, whenever that might be. I've got a friend that doesn't get up till 11 a.m. every day. Couldn't be me, but that's just her body. And so her first 10 decisions, right? Your top 10 decisions of the day, where are you allocating them to? I like that as an additional currency. Or a layer on top of the 3 currencies, maybe.
Maybe a layer on top.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
I think we've just come up with a new framework.
Great.
Holly, honestly, you're wise beyond your years. Every time I speak to you, I'm just enlightened. And thank you really so much for talking to us today. It's been such a unique and fresh perspective. And we didn't even get into financial activism and impact investing.
Episode 2.
Next time you're back in Singapore, let's do a second one.
Yeah.
And so, thank you. Anything else?
I agree. A very fresh perspective. I find it a very hopeful perspective. It's nice to hear that you're making such intentional, conscious decisions. It's remarkable to me that generations can be so different. Even you and your sister, 8 years. That's I think an insight that the world needs to understand more. But no, really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
To everyone still listening, watching, wherever you are, we will link to Holly's LinkedIn below if you'd like to reach out. But please ask any questions in the comments. We will get back to you. And we always finish off saying, make every decision count. And every episode, it's becoming more and more poignant. So make every decision count. And we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.